Yeah, that looks better now. There's actually, because without you there, it looks like there's 3 people in here. There is.
Wow, talk about it's a lot no show.
How many people registered?
Like 14?
14 or 15.
Yeah. So I'm like,
There's a benefit. That means more cupcake for everyone.
there you go. We're starting off small, just wait. This is in here. Hey, hi, you're supposed to start. I'm Michelle.
Oh, Carla.
Oh, it's nice to meet you. Here, have a seat, not in the sun, hopefully, so there you go. Excellent. Okay. You know what, actually, let me introduce you. Just for-
If you want.
Okay,
Yeah.
would you? Okay.
Sure.
Where's the tape, right there?
Right here.
So this
Right where you were.
Okay, all right.
straddling that.
Okay. All right, since we're on camera. Okay, so, oh wait, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Carla.
All right. Okay, so thank you guys for coming. I'm really excited. We are talking about qualifying leads for Facebook Messenger, and it's changed in the last couple days. So we're going to talk sort of a little bit about what's going on in the news, and sort of what some of the predictions. Kyle's great with talking about, where he predicts this is going to be based on what he's hearing and all the research he's been doing. So Gun Multimedia Partners is proud to have Kyle here as our Director of Digital Marketing. Okay, Kyle, want to take over? Thanks. And you can get a cupcake, you guys.
All right, so how many people here find online marketing pretty easy? Getting a lot of leads from the website?
I think I got my first one.
Ah, there you go.
So it's a little tough, right? It's tough, and it's tough for a couple reasons that we're going to talk about really quickly. Let's do a quick aside. There's 2 basic reasons why it's tough. One is kind of your own fault or our own fault as marketers, and the other is actually the environment. So let's just get our own fault out of the way first. And that is that really, I think when it comes down to it, when you fail at online marketing, you're failing because of 2 reasons. One, relevancy, and second is sequencing, okay? So if you get nothing else out of this, those 2 things are really key to remember. So what do I mean by relevancy? Well, relevancy, in my mind, actually rules the internet. If you think about Google's quality score, if you think about the cost of your Facebook ad, if you've ever run Facebook ads or Google ads, you have something called a quality score. Facebook, they call that a relevance score. And what that means is your ad relevant to the person that's seeing it, okay? So let's use my favorite example, and that's dating. So if you're dating, you could be the best husband material around, but if the woman that you're interested in is happily married, you're not relevant, right? So it doesn't matter how many times you show up to see her, your offer isn't relevant, right? All right, so let's take, and this happens a lot online. And now let's take the opposite. Let's talk about sequence. So say that she gets divorced and she's had some time to process it. Now she's back in the market and you approach her again. Now you're relevant, right? You hope, at least. But what happens if you immediately walk up to her and say, "Hey, I'd love to marry you. Let's get married." Now you're out of sequence, right? You've got a sequencing problem, which is where most people fail, I think, online. So most businesses are assuming that people are coming to your website, they're ready to buy right now, and they're not, right? So you've got to be able to be relevant, and you have to be able to approach them in the right sequence. All right, so who am I? Well, my name's Kyle McMurray, and I'm a certified marketer, what they call a full stack marketer. I'm certified across the board with a specialist in copywriting and paid Facebook ads. And a few years ago, about 7, when I was starting my business, I was going through a little bit of a rough time. I was in a messy divorce that was taking forever, over almost 7 years long. And I was working in a nightclub till about 3 in the morning, and then I was showing up at BNI's and networking events at 7 to try and get leads, and it was grueling. It was exhausting, and it was really tough. And it wasn't doing very well because it was 2011 and 12, and most people, when I was trying to sell social media, most people in BNI didn't want that. They didn't think it was applicable to their business. So I was having a tough time. Well, I finally found somebody that I thought was going to be great, and he was great. He was connected to a bunch of people. He was kind of a directory, what they call an online directory guy, and I thought this is going to be amazing. So I prepared for a week. Before I met him, I got all the best information. I met him, I thought I wowed him, and I didn't hear from him. A couple weeks went by, I followed up, he wanted to meet again, and I spent about 8 to 10 weeks with him. And finally he just said, I'm really not interested, I just wanted to see what you had. Right? So I don't know if you've ever had a time where you've kind of chased somebody and they actually were not qualified at all. Right? And I almost quit because of that. I thought, this is impossible. I'll never be able to qualify. Wasn't long after that, a friend of mine showed me some videos of a conference that had a very famous marketer who talked about having a systematic way of taking a complete cold prospect, what he called an unwelcome pest, and gradually turning them into a welcome guest. And he was doing that using something called a sales funnel, which are still great, but they've become very complex, and we're going to talk about why. So, as we said, that's really the relevancy and the sequencing. That's really what our mistakes are. But let's talk about the environment. So, why isn't marketing like it was 10 years ago online? Well, competition's super fierce. Email is ridiculously crowded. Prospects are tired of opting in, right? Who wants more email here? Right? So the next time someone asks you for an email, now I'm not saying email doesn't work, so hear me on this. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm saying it's a lot more difficult than it was, even 4 years ago. So email open rates, and this is actually outdated, as we're going to see in a minute. This is actually outdated. Below 20%, it's sitting between 4 and 18, as we're going to see. Click-through rates, that's what that CTR thing, 1%. So let's just say you send out your email to 100 people. From this, about 20, and again, that's being generous, will open it, and only about one person, if you're lucky, will actually click through to whatever you're trying to offer them. So prospects are often giving fake emails, right? They'll have an email that they've created that's a Gmail that they just put all their junk into. So you can't really follow up with them. And following up, let's face it, it takes a while. Building a marketing funnel, which is what we were just talking about, is tedious, it's expensive, and it's slow. I'm not saying it doesn't work, they do work, but they're very expensive to do, and they take quite a bit of testing and optimization. And finally, while personalization has gone on, meaning that now we can say, hi Lynn, how are you in the email, intimacy, the feeling that you're intimately connected with somebody who's sending the email has gone way down, right? Because we know that they're just broadcasting this to thousands of people. So the fact that they're calling us Lynn or our first name, or in my case, Kyle, means nothing. So this is just from last year. This is the from HubSpot. And look up here, what is your company's top marketing challenges? Generating traffic and leads is almost 2/3. And these are major companies. 40% said they can't prove their ROI of their marketing. This is crazy. And these are major companies. These aren't local businesses. This is a major scale. And they're saying they don't know, they're spending all this money, they're pouring money into online. They don't know. Is it working? I don't know, right? And then plus, after pouring all that money, they're still having trouble getting traffic and leads. So that's the online environment. Now let's talk about communication. I want you to think about 10 years ago how you communicated with customers. Email, probably, right? Phone calls, right? Right? There's a big shift away from